T-Rex finds a crying baby velociraptor. What follows is unforgettable. How will this story unfold? To find out, watch the video to the end. But first, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to get more stories like this. The jungle was alive with sounds, chirping insects, rustling leaves, and the distant roars of predators. It was a world where survival meant being fast, strong, or clever, and there was little room for weakness. The T-Rex, towering and powerful, moved through the dense foliage with a purpose. Its amber eyes scanned the forest floor, searching for its next meal. Every creature that crossed its path knew to flee or hide, for the T-Rex was the undisputed king of the jungle. But as the T-Rex approached a clearing, a different sound reached its ears, a soft, high-pitched whimper. It was faint, almost lost amidst the cacophony of the jungle, but it was enough to make the giant predator pause. Tilting its massive head, the T-Rex sniffed the air, catching an unfamiliar scent. Curiosity piqued. It followed the sound, its heavy footsteps causing the ground to tremble. In the middle of the clearing, curled up beneath a fallen log, was a baby velociraptor. Its tiny body trembled with fear, and its cries were pitiful and weak. The T-Rex loomed over the scene, its shadow engulfing the small creature. The velociraptor froze, its wide, frightened eyes locking onto the predator. Instinct told the T-Rex to attack. It was a predator after all, and the velociraptor was a potential meal. But something made it hesitate. Perhaps it was the sheer vulnerability of the tiny creature, or the way its cries tugged at something deep and unacknowledged within the T-Rex. Whatever the reason, the T-Rex lowered its massive head, sniffing the baby velociraptor. The baby squeaked in alarm, flailing its tiny limbs in a feeble attempt to defend itself. The T-Rex pulled back slightly, as if puzzled by the little one's reaction. For a moment, they stared at each other, the towering predator and the fragile hatchling. Slowly, the T-Rex nudged the baby with its snout, a surprisingly gentle gesture for such a fearsome creature. The velociraptor flinched but didn't run. It was too young, too weak to flee. The T-Rex sniffed again, catching the scent of other predators nearby. The baby was alone, abandoned, or perhaps its family had been killed. Either way, the T-Rex understood that the tiny creature wouldn't survive long on its own. The T-Rex stepped back, its massive tail swishing through the underbrush. It let out a low rumble, a sound that seemed to calm the baby velociraptor. Encouraged, the little one took a hesitant step forward, its tiny claws digging into the dirt. It seemed to sense that the T-Rex, despite its terrifying appearance, wasn't going to hurt it. The baby velociraptor wobbled on its thin legs, its movements unsteady but determined. It approached the T-Rex cautiously, still unsure of what to make of the enormous creature towering over it. The T-Rex watched in silence, its amber eyes filled with something that might have been curiosity, or perhaps something deeper, something even the T-Rex itself didn't fully understand. The baby let out a soft chirp, testing the waters. The sound was so small, so fragile, that it almost seemed absurd in the face of the T-Rex's immense power. And yet, the T-Rex responded not with a roar or a snap of its jaws, but with another low rumble, a sound that seemed to resonate deep within the jungle. Encouraged, the baby velociraptor crept closer, finally resting at the T-Rex's massive feet. It curled up into a small ball, its tiny body heaving with each breath. The T-Rex lowered its head, sniffing the baby one last time before settling onto its haunches. For a moment, the jungle seemed to hold its breath as the two unlikely companions sat together in the clearing. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, the T-Rex rose to its feet. It had made its decision. Carefully, it nudged the baby velociraptor with its snout, urging it to stand. The baby chirped in protest but eventually complied, its tiny legs trembling as it followed the T-Rex into the dense foliage. The jungle was a dangerous place, especially for a creature as small and vulnerable as the baby velociraptor. Predators lurked in the shadows, their eyes glinting in the fading light, but none dared approach the T-Rex. Its mere presence was enough to send even the boldest hunters retreating into the safety of the underbrush. The T-Rex led the way, its footsteps slow and deliberate. The baby struggled to keep up, its tiny legs no match for the T-Rex's long strides. Sensing this, the T-Rex paused, glancing back at the little one. With surprising gentleness, it lowered its massive head and nudged the baby forward, as if encouraging it to keep going. By the time night fell, the T-Rex had found a safe place for them to rest. A rocky outcrop nestled against the base of a hill. The area was sheltered and hidden from view, offering protection from predators. The T-Rex lay down, its massive body curling slightly to form a barrier around the baby Velociraptor. The baby chirped softly, its small voice carrying a note of gratitude. It nestled against the T-Rex's side, finding warmth and safety in the shadow of the great predator. For the first time since it had been abandoned, the baby Velociraptor slept peacefully, its tiny body rising and falling with each breath. The T-Rex, however, remained awake. Its sharp eyes scanned the darkness, its senses alert for any signs of danger. This was a new experience for the T-Rex, a creature that had always been a solitary hunter. It was used to looking out for itself, to surviving through strength and cunning. But now, with the baby Velociraptor at its side, the T-Rex felt a strange sense of responsibility, a need to protect something other than itself. Morning came with the sounds of birds chirping and the rustle of leaves in the breeze. The baby Velociraptor woke first, blinking sleepily before letting out a small yawn. It stretched its tiny legs and looked up at the T-Rex, who was still lying beside it. The T-Rex rumbled softly, a sound that seemed to reassure the baby. The two of them set off again, the T-Rex leading the way through the jungle. Along the way, the T-Rex demonstrated its hunting prowess, using its immense strength and sharp senses to catch prey. It brought the food to the baby, tearing off small pieces and nudging them toward the tiny Velociraptor. The baby chirped happily as it ate, its trust in the T-Rex growing with each passing moment. As the days turned into weeks, the bond between the T-Rex and the baby Velociraptor deepened. The baby began to mimic the T-Rex's movements, attempting to roar like its guardian and even trying to take down small prey on its own. Though its attempts were often clumsy and unsuccessful, the T-Rex seemed patient, allowing the baby to learn at its own pace. One day, as they were traveling through a particularly dense part of the jungle, the T-Rex suddenly stopped. Its massive head lifted, its nostrils flaring as it caught an unfamiliar scent. The baby Velociraptor, now more confident and curious, looked up at the T-Rex, tilting its head as if to ask what was wrong. Before the T-Rex could respond, a low growl echoed through the trees. The T-Rex turned its head sharply, its amber eyes narrowing as it scanned the shadows. From the darkness emerged a pack of allosaurs, their sleek bodies and sharp teeth a clear threat. The baby Velociraptor chirped in alarm, pressing itself against the T-Rex's leg. The T-Rex let out a deafening roar, the sound reverberating through the jungle and sending birds scattering from the treetops. The allosaurs hesitated, their eyes flicking between the T-Rex and the small Velociraptor at its feet. The T-Rex stepped forward, placing itself between the allosaurs and the baby Velociraptor. Its massive tail swept through the air, creating a barrier that the pack would have to cross if they wanted to reach the baby. The allosaurs growled and snapped, their movements coordinated as they began to circle the T-Rex. But the T-Rex was undeterred. It lunged forward with incredible speed, its powerful jaws snapping inches away from the lead allosaur. The pack scattered, their initial bravado faltering in the face of the T-Rex's sheer power. One by one, they retreated into the jungle, their growls fading into the distance. The T-Rex stood still for a moment, its chest heaving as it surveyed the area. Satisfied that the danger had passed, it turned back to the baby Velociraptor, who was still pressed against its leg. The baby looked up at the T-Rex, its eyes wide with awe and gratitude. The T-Rex rumbled softly, lowering its head to nudge the baby. The Velociraptor chirped in response, a sound that seemed to say, "Thank you." The jungle grew quiet once more, the tension from the allosaur attack dissipating as the predators retreated. The T-Rex nudged the baby Velociraptor forward, encouraging it to keep moving. The baby chirped softly, its tiny legs wobbling as it tried to match the giant strides of its guardian. Despite the dangers of the jungle, the T-Rex remained steadfast, scanning its surroundings with sharp, calculating eyes. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the pair came across a small stream. The T-Rex lowered its massive head to drink, the water glinting in the sunlight as it rippled from the movement. The baby Velociraptor watched for a moment before cautiously stepping forward. Its tiny claws splashed in the water, and it leaned down to drink, mimicking the T-Rex's movements. The T-Rex rumbled softly, a sound that seemed almost approving. The baby Velociraptor, now more confident, began to explore the edges of the stream, chirping excitedly as it discovered small fish darting through the water. It snapped at them playfully, its tiny jaws clamping shut with an audible click. Though it failed to catch anything, its determination was clear. The T-Rex watched the baby's antics with what could only be described as patience. For a creature known for its fearsome reputation, the T-Rex had shown an unexpected capacity for gentleness and care. It seemed to understand that the baby Velociraptor needed time to learn and grow, and it was willing to provide the protection and guidance the little one needed. As the day wore on, the two continued their journey through the jungle. The baby Velociraptor followed closely, occasionally darting off to investigate a rustling bush or a fluttering bird. Each time it wandered too far, the T-Rex would let out a low rumble, calling the baby back to its side. The bond between them was undeniable, a partnership born out of necessity but nurtured by something deeper. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the T-Rex led the baby to a small clearing. The area was surrounded by tall trees, their branches forming a natural canopy that provided shelter. The ground was soft and covered in moss, making it an ideal place to rest. The T-Rex settled down, its massive body curling slightly to create a protective barrier around the baby Velociraptor. The baby chirped softly, curling up against the T-Rex's side. For a moment, the two simply lay there, the sounds of the jungle fading into the background. The T-Rex's rhythmic breathing seemed to lull the baby to sleep, its tiny body rising and falling with each breath. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, the T-Rex remained awake, its keen senses alert for any signs of danger. It thought about the baby Velociraptor and the journey they had shared so far. The T-Rex had never experienced anything like this before, this sense of responsibility, of connection. It was a strange and unfamiliar feeling, but it wasn't unwelcome. The T-Rex's thoughts were interrupted by a distant sound, a series of high-pitched calls echoing through the jungle. Its head snapped up, its eyes narrowing as it scanned the darkness. The baby Velociraptor stirred, blinking sleepily before chirping in response to the calls. The T-Rex recognized the sound immediately. It was a group of velociraptors, their voices carrying through the night as they communicated with each other. The baby Velociraptor chirped again, its tiny body perking up as it recognized the calls of its kind. The T-Rex hesitated, torn between its instincts and the bond it had formed with the baby. It knew that the velociraptors were likely the baby's family, and that they could provide the companionship and guidance the little one needed to thrive. But the thought of letting the baby go filled the T-Rex with an unfamiliar ache, a sense of loss it couldn't fully understand. As the calls grew louder, the T-Rex rose to its feet. It nudged the baby Velociraptor gently, encouraging it to follow the sounds. The baby hesitated, looking up at the T-Rex with wide, questioning eyes. For a moment, it seemed uncertain, torn between the safety of its guardian and the pull of its own kind. The T-Rex rumbled softly, lowering its head to nuzzle the baby one last time. The gesture was gentle, almost tender, and it seemed to give the baby the reassurance it needed. With a final chirp, the baby Velociraptor turned and began to make its way toward the source of the calls. The T-Rex watched as the baby disappeared into the darkness, its tiny form swallowed by the shadows of the jungle. It stood still for a long time, its massive frame silhouetted against the night sky. The sounds of the velociraptors faded into the distance, leaving the T-Rex alone once more. But this time, the solitude felt different. The T-Rex had experienced something it never thought possible, a bond that transcended instincts and natural boundaries. And though the baby velociraptor was gone, its memory would remain, a lasting reminder of the connection they had shared. As dawn broke, the T-Rex began to move again, its heavy footsteps echoing through the jungle. It carried itself with a newfound sense of purpose, its journey no longer guided solely by hunger and survival. The jungle was vast and full of challenges, but the T-Rex had learned that even in the harshest of environments, moments of compassion and connection could emerge. For the baby Velociraptor, the reunion with its family was bittersweet. It had found safety and belonging among its own kind, but it never forgot the guardian who had protected and cared for it during its most vulnerable moments. The lessons it had learned from the T-Rex about strength, courage, and kindness shaped the Velociraptor as it grew, becoming a part of its very being. In the years that followed, the T-Rex and the Velociraptor crossed paths again, their encounters brief but meaningful. Each time, they shared a moment of recognition, a silent acknowledgement of the bond that had once united them. And though their lives took them in different directions, the connection they had formed remained unbroken, a testament to the power of compassion in even the fiercest of worlds. The jungle, with all its dangers and wonders, continued to thrive, its rhythms unchanged. But hidden within its depths was a story of a T-Rex and a baby Velociraptor, of strength and tenderness, of survival and friendship. And though the jungle would never tell the story, it lived on in the memories of those who had witnessed it, a reminder that even the most unlikely of bonds could leave an unforgettable mark. Days turned into weeks, and the jungle moved on, as it always did. The T-Rex continued its solitary life, traversing the dense forest and vast plains, hunting when necessary and resting under the shade of towering trees. But something had shifted within the mighty predator. The time spent with the baby Velociraptor had left an indelible mark, a quiet reminder that even the fiercest creatures could show compassion. The T-Rex found itself returning to familiar areas, the stream where the baby had played, the rocky outcrop where they had rested, and even the clearing where they first met. These places held memories, fleeting but powerful, of a bond that defied nature's order. Each time the T-Rex visited these places, it lingered for a moment, as if expecting to see the little Velociraptor chirping and wobbling toward it. But the jungle was ever-changing, and the T-Rex knew better than to dwell on the past. Survival demanded focus, strength, and adaptability. Still, the memory of the baby Velociraptor lingered, a quiet presence that accompanied the predator through the trials of its solitary life. Meanwhile, the baby Velociraptor thrived among its kind. Reunited with its family, it learned the ways of the pack, how to hunt in coordinated efforts, how to navigate the dense jungle, and how to communicate through the series of chirps and growls that were unique to velociraptors. But even as it adapted to its new life, the little Velociraptor carried the lessons it had learned from the T-Rex. The pack noticed something different about the young Velociraptor. It was bolder, more curious, and more willing to take risks than its peers. While others hesitated, it ventured into unknown territory, exploring with a confidence that belied its small size. This courage set it apart, earning the respect of the older velociraptors and positioning it as a leader in the making. One day, as the pack hunted along the edge of a vast plain, the young velociraptor caught a familiar scent on the wind. It froze, its nose twitching as it tried to place the smell. A wave of recognition washed over it, and without hesitation, it broke away from the pack, sprinting toward the source of the scent. The T-Rex was resting in a shaded grove, its massive body stretched out beneath a canopy of leaves. It had just finished a successful hunt, and the remnants of its meal lay nearby. The predator's eyes were half closed, its breathing slow and steady as it basked in the tranquility of the moment. The sound of rustling leaves caught the T-Rex's attention, and its eyes snapped open. It lifted its head, scanning the grove for signs of movement. For a moment, there was nothing. Then, from the underbrush, a small but familiar figure emerged. It was the Velociraptor. The T-Rex froze, its amber eyes locking onto the little dinosaur. The Velociraptor chirped excitedly, its tail swishing as it bounded toward the T-Rex. It was no longer the trembling, fragile baby the T-Rex had protected. It had grown taller, its movements more confident, its frame lean and strong. But its eyes still held the same spark of recognition and trust. The Velociraptor stopped a few feet away, chirping softly as it tilted its head. The T-Rex lowered its massive snout, sniffing the smaller dinosaur. The scent was unmistakable. It was the baby Velociraptor, now grown and thriving. For a moment, the two creatures simply stood there, their gazes locked. The Velociraptor let out a series of chirps and growls, as if recounting its adventures since they last met. The T-Rex rumbled in response, a deep, resonant sound that seemed to acknowledge the Velociraptor's journey. Despite their differences, the bond between them had endured. The Velociraptor nuzzled the T-Rex's snout, a gesture of gratitude and affection. The T-Rex, in turn, rumbled softly, lowering its head as if to shield the smaller dinosaur from the harshness of the world. The reunion was brief but meaningful. The Velociraptor knew it couldn't stay. It had a pack now, responsibilities, and a place within the order of the jungle. But it also knew that the T-Rex would always be a part of its story, a guardian who had protected it when it was most vulnerable. Before leaving, the Velociraptor let out one final chirp, a sound that carried across the grove like a farewell. The T-Rex watched as the smaller dinosaur disappeared into the underbrush, its heart heavy but full. The bond they had shared was unbroken, even as their paths diverged once more. The years rolled on, and the jungle continued its endless cycle of life and death. The Velociraptor grew into a skilled hunter and leader, guiding its pack with a confidence that inspired loyalty and respect. Its encounters with the T-Rex became stories it passed on to the younger members of the pack, tales of an unlikely friendship that taught it the value of strength tempered with compassion. The T-Rex, too, carried on, its reputation as a fearsome predator unchanged. But those who observed it from afar noticed something different. There was a gentleness to the way it navigated the jungle, an unspoken understanding of the delicate balance of life. It hunted only when necessary, never out of malice or excess, and its presence seemed to command a unique kind of respect. One fateful day, the jungle faced a challenge greater than any predator or storm. A volcanic eruption sent shockwaves through the land, spewing ash and fire into the sky. The ground trembled, and the air was thick with heat and smoke. Animals of all kinds fled in terror, their instincts driving them to seek safety from the chaos. The Velociraptor pack was among those fleeing, their movements swift and coordinated as they navigated the treacherous terrain. But as they crossed a narrow ravine, a young member of the pack stumbled, its small frame no match for the falling debris. The Velociraptor leader, the once baby Velociraptor, turned back, risking its own life to save the young one. As it pulled the struggling dinosaur to safety, a deafening roar echoed through the chaos. The Velociraptor turned, its heart leaping as it saw the T-Rex standing at the edge of the ravine. The predator's massive frame was silhouetted against the fiery sky, its presence both awe-inspiring and reassuring. The T-Rex roared again, its voice cutting through the cacophony of the eruption. It moved with purpose, guiding the Velociraptor pack toward a safer path. The pack hesitated at first, their instincts wary of the predator. But the Velociraptor leader chirped urgently, signaling to the pack that the T-Rex could be trusted. Together, the unlikely allies navigated the chaos, the T-Rex using its immense strength to clear obstacles, and the Velociraptors relying on their speed and agility to scout the way. It was a testament to the bond that had formed between the T-Rex and the Velociraptor leader, a bond that had transcended time, species, and circumstance. When the danger had passed and the jungle began to recover, the T-Rex and the Velociraptor leader shared one final moment. Standing at the edge of a clearing, surrounded by the ruins of their once thriving home, they looked at each other with mutual respect and understanding. No words or sounds were needed, their bond spoke for itself. The Velociraptor leader returned to its pack, its heart full of gratitude. The T-Rex watched them go, a sense of pride swelling within it. They had faced the jungle's greatest challenge together, proving that even the most unlikely partnerships could overcome the impossible. In the aftermath of the volcanic eruption, the jungle began to rebuild itself. The once ash-covered trees sprouted new leaves, and the rivers that had been clogged with debris began to flow freely again. Life in the jungle was resilient, always finding a way to adapt and thrive despite adversity. The Velociraptor pack had settled in a new area, far from the destruction caused by the eruption. The Velociraptor leader, now older and more seasoned, had earned the unwavering loyalty of its pack. Its bravery during the chaos of the eruption had solidified its role as a protector and guide. Yet, even in its leadership, the Velociraptor leader often found itself pausing at the edge of the jungle, looking out at the horizon. It thought of the T-Rex, the guardian who had once shielded it from harm, who had taught it strength, resilience, and compassion. Those lessons had stayed with the Velociraptor leader, shaping it into the creature it had become. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, the Velociraptor leader heard a familiar sound. It was faint at first, almost indistinguishable from the rustling of leaves. But as the leader tilted its head, listening intently, the sound grew louder, a deep, resonant rumble that carried through the jungle like a heartbeat. The Velociraptor leader chirped softly, its heart racing as it recognized the sound. It was the T-Rex, its call echoing through the trees like a distant thunderclap. Without hesitation, the Velociraptor leader broke away from its pack, sprinting toward the source of the sound. The T-Rex was standing in a wide clearing, its massive frame illuminated by the soft glow of the setting sun. It had grown older, its once vibrant scales now dulled with age, but its presence was as commanding as ever. The T-Rex let out another low rumble, scanning the trees as if searching for something or someone. The Velociraptor leader emerged from the underbrush, its movements swift and purposeful. It chirped loudly, a call of recognition and greeting. The T-Rex turned its massive head, its amber eyes locking onto the smaller dinosaur. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then, with a rumble that sounded almost like a purr, the T-Rex lowered its head, allowing the Velociraptor leader to approach. The Velociraptor leader stepped forward, its claws clicking softly against the ground. It nuzzled the T-Rex's snout, a gesture of trust and gratitude. The T-Rex rumbled in response, the sound deep and soothing. Despite the passage of time, their bond remained unbroken, a testament to the connection they had forged so many years ago. The two creatures spent the evening together, their presence a comfort to one another. The Velociraptor leader chirped softly, recounting its experiences and the challenges it had faced since their last meeting. The T-Rex listened patiently, its massive head tilted slightly as if understanding every word. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, the Velociraptor leader rested against the T-Rex's side, much like it had done when it was a baby. The T-Rex let out a deep sigh, its breath warm and steady. For a moment, the jungle seemed to pause, the world holding its breath as the two creatures shared this quiet, peaceful moment. Morning came all too soon, the first rays of sunlight piercing through the canopy of trees. The Velociraptor leader knew it had to return to its pack, but it lingered for a moment, reluctant to leave. The T-Rex rumbled softly, nudging the smaller dinosaur as if to say, "It's okay, go." With a final nuzzle, the Velociraptor leader turned and began to make its way back to its pack. It glanced back only once, chirping softly as a farewell. The T-Rex watched it go, a sense of pride and peace filling its heart. It had done its part, not just as a predator or a guardian, but as a friend. The Velociraptor leader returned to its pack, its movements confident and purposeful. It carried with it the strength and wisdom it had gained from its bond with the T-Rex, using those lessons to guide its pack through the challenges of the jungle. The other velociraptors looked to their leader with respect and admiration, knowing that they were in capable claws. Meanwhile, the T-Rex continued its solitary journey, its presence a quiet but powerful force in the jungle. It moved with the grace and confidence of a creature that had lived a full life, one marked not just by survival but by connection. The memory of the velociraptor lingered in its heart, a reminder of the unexpected friendship that had changed its life. As the years passed, the jungle witnessed the cycle of life continue. The velociraptor leader grew older, passing its knowledge and leadership to the next generation. The T-Rex, 2. Left its mark on the jungle. Its legacy carried on in the stories told by those who had crossed its path. One day, long after the T-Rex had passed, a young velociraptor wandered into the same clearing where the T-Rex and the velociraptor leader had reunited. The clearing was quiet, the air filled with the scent of wildflowers and the soft hum of insects. The young velociraptor paused, its eyes scanning the area as if sensing something special about this place. It let out a soft chirp, the sound carrying through the trees. For a moment, the jungle seemed to respond, the rustling of leaves and the distant calls of birds creating a symphony of life. The young velociraptor tilted its head, its gaze lingering on a spot where the ground was slightly sunken, a place where the T-Rex had once rested. Though it didn't fully understand why, the young velociraptor felt a sense of calm and connection in that clearing. It chirped again, its voice filled with curiosity and wonder. And as it stood there, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun, it felt as though the spirit of the T-Rex was watching over it, a guardian of the jungle's endless cycle of life. The story of the T-Rex and the velociraptor became a legend among the creatures of the jungle, passed down through generations. It was a tale of courage, compassion, and the unbreakable bond between two unlikely friends. And though the jungle continued to evolve, the memory of their friendship remained, a reminder that even in the harshest of worlds, there was room for kindness and connection. Generations passed, and the jungle continued to flourish, its dense canopy sheltering countless species. The velociraptors thrived as a pack, their lineage shaped by the wisdom and courage passed down from their leaders. Among them, the story of the T-Rex and the velociraptor leader was more than a tale. It was a legacy that guided their actions and their understanding of the jungle's complex and interconnected world. The young velociraptor who had discovered the clearing where the T-Rex had once rested grew into a formidable leader. It carried the values of its ancestors, fostering a pack that balanced strength with compassion, hunting with care for the jungle that sustained them. Though it had never seen the T-Rex itself, the velociraptor felt its presence in the whispers of the forest, in the rustling leaves and the steady rhythm of life that pulsed through the jungle. One fateful day, a new challenge arose in the jungle. A prolonged drought gripped the land, drying up streams and rivers, wilting plants, and driving prey into hiding. The once thriving ecosystem was pushed to its limits, and survival became more challenging than ever. The velociraptor pack, like all creatures of the jungle, faced a daily struggle to find food and water. The young velociraptor leader, now in its prime, led its pack with determination. It remembered the stories of the T-Rex, the guardian who had protected its ancestor and taught it the value of resilience. Drawing on these lessons, the leader sought not only to keep its pack alive, but also to ensure that the balance of the jungle was maintained. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the velociraptor leader ventured into the heart of the jungle in search of water. The air was heavy with heat, and the once lush vegetation was dry and brittle. The leader moved silently, its keen senses attuned to every sound and scent. As it reached a familiar clearing, the very one where the T-Rex and its ancestor had reunited, the velociraptor leader paused. The ground beneath its feet was cracked and dry, but the air carried a faint, sweet scent, the promise of water. Driven by instinct and hope, the leader began to dig. Its claws tore through the earth, scattering dust and debris as it worked tirelessly. The other members of the pack soon arrived, watching their leader with curiosity. Sensing the importance of the task, they joined in, their combined efforts uncovering a shallow pool of water hidden beneath the surface. The pack chirped excitedly as the first drops of water began to seep through the soil. It was a small victory, but it was enough to sustain them for another day. The velociraptor leader stood back, watching as its pack drank from the pool. In that moment, it felt a deep sense of pride, not just in its own leadership, but in the legacy it carried. The drought eventually ended, and the jungle began to heal. Rain returned to the land, rejuvenating the rivers and streams, and the once dry vegetation sprang back to life. The velociraptor pack, having endured the harshest of conditions, emerged stronger and more united than ever. The leader, now older and wiser, often revisited the clearing where they had found water during the drought. It became a place of reflection, a reminder of the strength and resilience that had carried them through. The leader's connection to this spot and to the stories of the T-Rex deepened with each visit. One day, as the Velociraptor leader rested in the clearing, it noticed something unusual. A small sapling had begun to grow in the center of the clearing, its young leaves reaching toward the sky. The leader tilted its head, studying the sapling with curiosity. It seemed almost symbolic, a new life emerging from a place of struggle and survival. The leader returned to the pack and shared what it had seen, chirping and growling in a way that conveyed the significance of the sapling. Over time, the pack came to view the clearing as a sacred space, a place to honor their history and the bond between their ancestor and the T-Rex. The sapling grew into a sturdy tree, its branches spreading wide to provide shade and shelter. The velociraptors often gathered beneath it, sharing stories and lessons with the younger members of the pack. The tree became a living symbol of the T-Rex's legacy, a reminder that even in the harshest of environments, acts of kindness and courage could create something lasting and beautiful. As the Velociraptor leader grew older, it began to pass on its leadership to a younger member of the pack. The transition was seamless, as the values and lessons passed down through generations ensured that the new leader was ready to take on the responsibility. The elder Velociraptor spent its final days in the clearing beneath the tree, surrounded by its pack. It watched with pride as the younger Velociraptors played and explored, their energy and curiosity a testament to the strength of their lineage. On the day the elder Velociraptor passed, the pack gathered beneath the tree to honor its memory. They chirped and growled in unison, their voices carrying through the jungle like a song. It was a tribute not only to their leader but to the T-Rex who had played a pivotal role in shaping their history. The story of the T-Rex and the Velociraptor became a legend that transcended the boundaries of the jungle. It was a tale passed down not just among the Velociraptors but among all the creatures of the land. It spoke of an unlikely friendship, of strength tempered with compassion, and of the enduring impact of acts of kindness. Even as the jungle continued to evolve, the legacy of the T-Rex lived on. The tree in the clearing grew taller with each passing year, its roots anchoring it firmly in the soil. It became a landmark, a place where creatures of all kinds could find shelter and solace. And though the T-Rex was long gone, its spirit remained, a quiet but powerful presence that watched over the jungle, a reminder that even in the fiercest of worlds, there was room for love, trust, and connection.